One of the doctors pretty much said, "You don't have years, you have months." I was terrified when I heard that. At the end of my senior year of high school, I was starting to have some back pain. Had no idea what it was, so I was just like a pulled muscle, or maybe at the beginning my dad thought it was maybe a disc was out of line in my back. So I went into the hospital, got an MRI, and then within hours of getting home, got a call being like, "You need to come back right now for emergency surgery." Still really had no idea what was going on. They told me there was a growth in my back. They didn't know if it was cancerous or benign. Did the surgery, kept going with that. They said they had run some tests and they didn't think it was cancerous in the first 2 days. Came back the third day and said that they actually found out that it was, and I was going to have to do 9 months of chemotherapy and 3 weeks of radiation, which was pretty upsetting. At the time, I was shocked about the cancer. The thing I was most upset about was that I wasn't going to be able to go off to college. Like all my friends were going off because I was a senior. I think it was May when this all happened. So it was right at the end of the school year. So I started my chemotherapy and most of my friends went off, but it actually ended up being kind of a good thing. I think this was in '07 because all my friends that were my age went off and I got to meet so many people that were a year younger than me. And we all started hanging out and I started growing with them, building awesome relationships with them. And then finally finished all my chemo, finished my radiation. Everything looked great. I was totally clean at the time. So I applied to colleges for the next year and I was going off to the University of Tennessee. I went off for a year and it was awesome. I loved everything about it. Unlike high school, I actually even liked the school part. And the social aspect was awesome too. Got there, did a whole year of school. Then over the summer, after a freshman year, I worked for an organization called Sun Servants that did short-term mission projects. Did that for 9 weeks. Was all over the place in Jamaica, Texas, and up in West Virginia. And that was awesome. And towards the end of that, my hip was starting to hurt. Didn't really know what it was. Thought it was from doing construction all day, every day. So I thought that once I came home and started resting it, that it'd be fine. And at this time, because I'd had the cancer before, I had to do surveillance scans every 3 months. I'd have an MRI and a couple x-rays just to make sure nothing was coming back. So I had my surveillance scan, and then again, within a few hours, got a call saying that they saw something. They weren't quite sure what it was, but I was going to have to come back in for more tests. And this time it was a much longer process. I had a bunch of scans. They took a piece of the bone in my hip out, in my thigh bone, to run some tests on to see what was going on. So it took a few weeks this time, which made me a lot more nervous. I was very anxious those 3 weeks to find out what was going on. And they told me again that my cancer had come back and it was in my hip. And again, I was going to have to go through 9 months of chemotherapy, this time no radiation. And I was pretty bummed. I had learned a lot going through it the last time, so I knew I could handle it. I knew I would be getting a little sick. It makes me nauseous and just really tired. I knew I could handle that aspect, but I was pretty bummed that I was going to be at home again, and this time there weren't going to be any friends really around. They were all going to be at college. So I started off my chemo. Everybody was gone. A lot of Skyping, a lot of time spent in front of the computer, which was great to talk to friends. And then I also got to spend a lot of time with one of our friends, Steve, and I got to build a very good relationship with him, which was awesome through being home. And I started to get really involved with the youth group, being a leader for the high school students, which was a lot of fun. Got to know a lot of them, just really kind of get into their lives, build relationships with them, which was great. Went through all the chemo, found out that because of the few cancer cells that they found in my hip, that my hip was slowly decaying. The blood supply was cut off from it, so I was going to need a hip replacement. So in December of that year, I think it was 2009, I had a hip replacement. It was only half a hip replacement, which is great. Had that done, everything went really well. I was up and walking within a month, which was great. And that was awesome. At first I was really nervous about being able to walk or what it was going to do affecting my life, because I really like to get out and play sports with friends, just pick up games, maybe frisbee or football. So I was really nervous that it was going to affect that. And I mean, it has affected it a little bit, but I'm still able to get out there and play, which is awesome. And again, I finished the 9 months of chemotherapy, and everything was clean again. I finished in June, I think, so got to hang out over the summer, just relax after being done with chemo. Got to see a lot of friends, and then I went back to University of Tennessee for a fall semester, 2010. And again, loved everything about it. It was great. The football season was so fun. School wasn't bad at all, and the social life was great. And then came home for winter break, and again I had my surveillance scans, and my back had been aching, but it did not feel at all like what I had, what it had felt like the first time I had been diagnosed with cancer. So I didn't think really anything of it. I thought that it was just sore. Went in for scans, came home, and then actually the next day the doctor called me. So that first day I thought I was in the clear, because usually they had called me right away. And I got a call the next day saying I needed to come in and talk with him. And I came in, and my doctor told me that I had 3 new growths. One on my left hip, which wasn't replaced, which was actual bone. And then one in one of my vertebrae, one of my lower vertebrae, and one in my pelvis. And the doctors did not seem optimistic at all about it at the time, which was terrifying. One of the doctors, one pretty much said, you don't have years, you have months probably. And so I was terrified when I heard that. Luckily, since then, I've gotten other opinions, which these doctors seem to be way more optimistic about what's going on, because that was last month or 2 months ago. And so they told me about all that was going on. I was, again, terrified. Really didn't have to deal with that aspect the first 2 times, because they told me that it was treatable. I just had to go through the chemo. I'm a little nervous about getting these scans and seeing what they say, because that'll dictate exactly what the next step we take, and that'll show us how well the chemo's been working, which is pretty important. I know if this chemo isn't working, they have a plan B. I don't think they have anything after that, so hopefully one of these 2 mixtures of medicine will work. But right now I'm a lot more optimistic and a lot more relaxed about it. The first month or so I was pretty uptight about what was going on. I mean, like I was telling you earlier in the interview, I live my life by faith, and I don't know why. I couldn't tell you why me, but I do believe that God has a plan for this, and that He will work good from it. I mean, I saw it the first 2 times. Because I was here, I built so many amazing friendships, and my relationships with my parents got so much better just from spending extra time at home. And a lot of good did come from that. I haven't quite seen what's going to happen this time, but I'm just trying to trust God through it. I am nervous still. I am a little scared. Not as much so as I was at the beginning, but it is still there. The lingering thoughts and lingering doubts. But I'm just trying to trust God through this, and I hope that something good will come out of it. And I know that He'll work good from it no matter what happens.